I hate this thing. I do. It's not just I don't agree with this symbol and this flag anymore. That I represented this, and that this is what people know me for, and this is all people identify me with. So I'd like to think I'm better than that and have more to offer than that. And I don't even like looking at this thing anymore. But we're talking about it. Here it is. It's been sitting in a box in a closet. Found it. It needs to go back in that box or go away forever, quite frankly. So in the late 90s, when the debates were happening in South Carolina about whether to keep the Confederate flag on top of the State House dome, I was a big Confederate flag supporter, and I started doing radio commentaries about that. I was an anonymous figure for so long. They called me the Southern Avenger. You know, I would go on the radio and I would defend that. I would talk about all sorts of things. I was a conservative personality, but that was one of the things, being in Charleston, being in the South. I did that on rock radio for since the late 90s to about 2007. At one point we decided that I needed to do appearances. There were actually requests from businesses to bring this guy to remotes, as we call them in the business, to come to the local bar to judge the wet t-shirt contest. We would do contests at front row with the Southern Avenger when wrestling, WWE would come to town. And so we tried to figure out what they wanted to keep me anonymous. I wanted to be anonymous. That was sort of the mystique. What does a Southern Avenger look like? Well, if you do this wrestling thing, let's get you a wrestling mask. What should that be? And the obvious choice was the Confederate flag. I hate looking at that symbol now when I do these interviews with national media or any media, and they put that photo up there of me in that mask. I absolutely despise looking at it because it doesn't represent who I am. I would argue it didn't really represent me then, but I was just so caught up in this shtick, and it was popular that you just kind of roll with these things. I think a lot of people in the entertainment business and the radio business do that to their personal detriment. I think I was certainly guilty of that. But yeah, I would go to bars and sit there for 2 or 3 hours, and we'd be on the radio, and people would come say hi and take pictures with you. I played in the Christmas parade in downtown Charleston on a float because I'm also a musician. I played guitar in the wrestling mask. We played the Ramones' Merry Christmas, I Don't Want to Fight Tonight over and over down through the streets of Charleston. And some people would laugh and applaud, and some people looked at me who weren't familiar with the rock station or me, but they were familiar with that symbol, especially black Southerners, black Charlestonians, and were not happy with what they saw. But I thought that was part of it. I thought not only being a Confederate flag defender, but a conservative is, well, you're not supposed to care what these other people think. I'm on my side. I'm right. And they're wrong, and we'll just stick it to them, and that was the attitude. I think that's the attitude of a lot of conservative hosts today. And I'm still a libertarian conservative is what I label myself as, but I'm also an American. I'm a human being. And I think there's something to be said for trying to be decent and trying to be good, as opposed to just sticking to this political point you might have and letting it turn you into something that you're either not or you shouldn't be.